The air inside the grocery store smelled faintly of cinnamon and pine. Christmas music played softly through the speakers, and bright lights shimmered from a row of decorated Christmas trees near the bakery section. Children laughed as they pointed at chocolate Santas, and parents hurriedly filled their carts with turkeys, hams, and gifts wrapped in red and gold foil. But not everyone in the store was filled with joy that evening. Near the fruit section, a young woman knelt down beside a little boy. Her clothes were worn, her coat missing a button, and her eyes looked tired, though she forced a smile for her son. "Maybe next Christmas, okay," she whispered, her voice cracking as she tried to keep her composure. The boy nodded, though disappointment clouded his face. He had been staring at the frozen turkey in the store freezer, the one with the golden label, the one his mom said they couldn't afford this year. It wasn't just about the turkey, it was about the feeling of a normal Christmas, something they hadn't had in a long time. A few aisles away, a man in a tailored suit was pushing his cart, distractedly scrolling through his phone. His name was Ethan Blake, a self-made millionaire known for his booming construction business. He looked like someone who had everything, the house, the cars, the respect, but inside, he carried a loneliness that success couldn't fill. His wife had passed away years ago, leaving him to raise their only son, Oliver, on his own. And though Ethan provided his son with every material thing possible, he often felt he wasn't giving him what truly mattered: time, warmth, compassion. Oliver, a curious 7-year-old with bright eyes, was sitting in the cart, swinging his legs. He looked around the store, humming softly to the Christmas tune. Then, suddenly, his attention shifted. He saw the woman kneeling near the turkey freezer, holding her son's hands. The boy looked about his age, but his clothes were old, his shoes scuffed. The mother was whispering something to him, her voice soft but filled with sadness. Oliver tugged on his father's sleeve. "Dad," he said quietly. Ethan didn't look up right away. "Dad, that lady over there, she can't buy a turkey," Oliver said, his tone serious now. The little boy wanted one, but she said they can't afford it. Ethan frowned slightly and looked up, following his son's gaze. He saw the woman, her eyes glistening as she gently led her son away from the frozen section. She had only a few small items in her basket: bread, a small carton of milk, and some canned soup. Ethan sighed. "Son, sometimes people have hard times," he said softly. "We can't help everyone." But Oliver shook his head. "But you always say Christmas is about helping people, right? You said Mommy like that." The words hit Ethan like a quiet thunderbolt. He froze for a moment, staring at his son. His late wife, Grace, had been the most selfless person he'd ever known. Every Christmas, she'd volunteer at shelters, bake cookies for neighbors, and make sure no one in their town went hungry. Even when they didn't have much, she believed in sharing what little they had. Ethan remembered her smile, the way she'd hold their son and say, "One small kindness can change a heart forever." He took a deep breath and looked back at the woman and her son, now heading toward the checkout. "Stay here for a minute, buddy," Ethan said, gently patting Oliver's head. "I'll be right back." He walked toward the frozen section, grabbed the biggest turkey he could find, and then filled another basket with everything needed for a proper Christmas meal: potatoes, cranberries, bread, pie, even a few toys. Then he walked quietly to the checkout, where the woman was standing in line, counting coins in her hand. The cashier scanned her few items, and when she saw the total, the woman sighed and put back the small box of chocolate cookies her son had picked earlier. "Maybe next time, sweetie," she said softly, smiling through her pain. Before she could hand over her money, Ethan stepped forward. "Excuse me," he said politely. The woman turned, startled. "Yes." "You forgot something," he said, setting the turkey and other groceries on the counter. "These are yours." Her eyes widened in confusion. I think you've made a mistake," she stammered. Ethan shook his head gently. "No mistake. My son told me what happened. Please, let us help. Merry Christmas." The woman blinked rapidly, speechless. "Sir, I can't accept this," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You don't have to," he said with a kind smile. "Just promise me you'll have a beautiful Christmas with your boy." Tears filled her eyes as she looked down at her son, who now clung to her arm with joy lighting up his face. The cashier, moved by the gesture, smiled warmly and helped pack the bags. "Thank you," the woman whispered, her voice barely audible. "You don't know what this means to us." Ethan just nodded, handed her the receipt, and stepped aside. When she left, he returned to Oliver, who was watching curiously. "Did you help them, Dad?" the boy asked. Ethan smiled and nodded. "We did, son. We did." Oliver grinned. "Just like Mommy used to." Ethan's chest tightened with emotion, and he knelt down, pulling his son into a hug. "Yeah," he whispered, his voice rough with feeling. "Just like Mommy used to." But that night, as they drove home through the softly falling snow, Ethan couldn't shake the image of the woman's grateful eyes. Something about her face, that mix of pain, pride, and hope, stuck with him. He had seen hundreds of people in his life, but her expression was different. It made him think. How many others in their town were quietly struggling while he lived comfortably behind tall walls and iron gates? When they reached home, Oliver ran upstairs, excited to wrap gifts for his friends. Ethan stood by the window, staring out into the snowy night. Christmas lights blinked across the city, but inside him, something deeper flickered, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Grace's voice echoed in his mind again, "One small kindness can change a heart forever." The next morning, he made a decision that would change not just one family's life, but many. He called his assistant and said, "Cancel my meetings for the week. We're going to do something different this Christmas." The assistant sounded confused, but Ethan didn't explain. He only knew that his son's innocent words had awoken something powerful, something he couldn't ignore.